Hello everyone, my name is Bruna Santali, and today I will be presenting my cultural immersion experience focused on a small Ukrainian post-war refugees resettling here in Florida. This project allowed me to explore multicultural trends, historical oppression, community resilience, Christian integration, and clinical application. So join me, this is going to be an interesting ride. The Russian invasion of Ukraine back in 2022 created one of the largest forced migration crises in modern history. Over 6 million Ukrainians have been displaced. More than 1 million now reside in the United States alone. Ukrainian immigration is not new, unfortunately. Waves began in the late 1800s, continued after World War II, and increased again after the fall of Soviet Union. Understanding this layered immigration history helps counselors contextualize present, present-day trauma within a broader historical framework. Oyola et al. 2024. Inter and intra-group characteristics. Well, research highlights that Ukrainians are not a homogeneous population. There are differences in religion, region, migration, path, age, and language use as well. Many carry both war-related trauma and generational trauma from Soviet oppression and the Holodomor famine. This diversity requires counselors to avoid assumptions and approach each family with cultural humility. Andrushko et al. 2025. Common values and identity. Well, common cultural values include resilience, adaptability, respect, expressed through formal titles, and a strong attachment to freedom. Identity is deeply tied to historical memory. Many Ukrainians prefer formal address as a sign of respect, and small misunderstandings can unintentionally communicate this respect. Ukrainians would feel more at ease and more appreciated if they were called by, for instance, engineer, which is his profession, and her name, or doctor and her name. The Ukrainians have been uprooted and feel lost sometimes. And there is a distinction between intent to be pleasant and impact to feel disrespected. According to Pechonik et al. 2022, the following psychological traits of Ukrainians are particularly important because they shape their values, they shape their lives and behavior. A strong sense of self-worth, a desire for freedom and individuality stemming from a developed personal principle. Prochaska 2022. So strong work ethic, faith-centered coping, that's what makes a value and identity for the Ukrainians. Faith and spirituality. The majority of Ukrainians belong to Orthodox Christian communities. In Coleman 2023, she says that faith plays a central role in Ukrainian identity. Since 2022, the war has had a huge impact on religious life in the country in many ways. Hundreds of religious buildings have been destroyed or severely damaged. A lot of people from different faith groups are helping people in need and filling positions as chaplains in the military, in schools, universities, and hospitals. Both sides of the fight have been using religion because they know that religion is a key part of who people are. Religion functions not only spiritually but culturally and even nationally. churches have been deeply involved in humanitarian aid during the war. For many refugees, faith is not an abstract theology, but a lived survival mechanism. Coleman 2023. Historical and current oppression. Ukrainians have endured nearly a century of oppression, including famine, religious suppression, and war. The Holodomor alone killed millions of Ukrainians. Since 2014, conflict in Crimea and eastern Ukraine sustained instability as well. And then 2022 came, a Russian invasion intensified displacement and trauma. So these events contribute to a complex PTSD and mistrust of institutions. Lenovsky et al. 2021. After all that's been said, where does the strength of the Ukrainian people come from? Well, despite oppression, Ukrainians demonstrate profound resilience. Collective memory strengthens identity rather than weakens it. Churches provide stability. Families maintain cultural practices even in exile. Adaptability is a defining characteristic. That's what Lvovsky et al. 2021 described the characteristics of strength and resilience of the Ukrainian people. So how can we treat and help the Ukrainians? Well, these are some of the treatment approaches that I found. Boecker 2025 stressed that research supports the use of CBT, cognitive behavior therapy, and narrative exposure therapy, NET, for refugee population. While the CBT addresses cognitive distortions and trauma-related beliefs, NET can also be used, which allows clients to narrate their life story, integrating traumatic events into identity development as well. CBT can also be used to help them identify and challenge negative thoughts related to their sense of worth and professional identity. They can also be encouraged to attend local ESL, like English as a second language classes, to improve their language skills and reduce some of the social isolation that they might be experiencing. Trauma-informed care therapy also can help by including narrative therapy to process their past experiences and reduce symptoms of anxiety. We as a counselor, we can also connect them with local support groups, churches, places where refugees can meet, where they could share their experiences and find mutual support. Cultural and identity counseling can also be applied as well, in which sessions will be focused on cultural and identity issues, whereby exploring the challenges of balancing his or her Ukrainian heritage with their new American identity. The multicultural and social justice core framework is structured around 4 developmental domains essential for cultivating a deep-seated competence in multicultural and social justice counseling, which includes counselor self-awareness, client worldview, counseling relationship, counseling and advocacy interventions as well. The second clause emphasizes understanding how exile and war shape worldview and identity formation. Ratz et al. 2016. So this is my immersion experience. Okay, this is like event number 1. Even though I had several events that I could speak here for hours, these were my favorite involvement within the Ukrainian refugee community here in my city. Okay, so we've done fundraising, house assistance, participated in church camps, uh, participating in Holodomor ceremony, and assisting the needs of immigrants, refugees, includes possessing cultural humility. God's Word offers powerful teaching about culture as He reminds us to be hospitable and show kindness to those in need, including strangers and refugees. As it says in Genesis 1:27, we are all made in His image. As such, Peter reminds us of this in Acts 10:34 NIV when he declares God does not show favoritism. So I became involved in the Ukrainian community through helping them housing assistance and church-based events. As a realtor, I help families navigate contracts and housing systems despite language barriers. Trust developed through consistent service, and I learned that presence, compassion, and dedication often speaks louder than advice. So this was a few of small events that I spent with the Ukrainian community here in my city. And oh boy, they do know how to cook. I love their food. So they introduced me to several of traditional Ukraine cuisine dishes as a borscht, deruni, halutzbi. I'm sure that I'm murdering the pronunciation for those names, but they are simply delicious. So the cuisine relies heavily on what grows well within the region, right? So they use tons of root vegetables and grains, and they use essentially beets, potatoes, and they use that in countless recipes. They've been extremely creative with the use of cabbage as well. So if you haven't tried it yet, you should. Ukrainian food is awesome, especially for me that I'm a vegetarian. And this is my immersion event number 2, and by far my favorite, because it involved families and involved healing. And so I volunteered and helped coordinate a small group marriage program developed by their church in response to family separation due to war. Many husbands and family members still remain in Ukraine. So that's when role changes, grief, and financial stress contributed to marital strain. This ministry became an oasis of refuge for these families. I dove deep in this experience as I got to hear their testimonies firsthand. I learned about their cultures, ate amazing food, as I mentioned before, and made friends for life. I love to work with them as we already had 2 meetings in February, and I don't think that our friendship finished in this immersion. I think my work with the Ukrainians have just started it. 3 key lessons. Well, additionally, immigrants and refugees may experience regret, safety fears, despair, anger, shame, and dissatisfaction with their overall lives. Racini et al. 2021. 3 lessons stood out in this experience for me. The first one is that war stress dramatically reshapes family systems. Second, spirituality and church community are foundational sources of healing. Third, but not least, compassion and presence must precede correction in Christian counseling. So these are my 3 takeaways from this experience. Well, I had the privilege of interviewing Mrs. Lorna Igora. She's a 36-year-old mother of 2 whose husband still is active in military service back in Ukraine. So she kept describing the feeling of being invisible due to the language barriers as she moved here in 2023, early 2023, And she emphasized the emotional impact of being mistaken for Russian rather than Ukrainian. And I asked Lorna what she had learned in school about the Holodomor. She said that they still commemorate the victims of the Stalinist genocide as a reminder of Ukrainian history of resilience and even hope, as she said. Sometimes bad days make us stronger. She said that we Ukrainians have been through a lot. I think that we keep pushing because of our past experiences. Lorna Igor, major Christian holidays like Christmas and Easter also hold great religious significance for them, as they feel that both Ukrainian and American culture align in those dates. According to her, celebrating holidays warms her heart, spiritually and emotionally. She said that she prays every day for peace, even though Lorna and this Ukrainian community think it would take a miracle for this war to end, noting that both sides are too culturally stubborn to give in. She said that faith and church serve as her primary coping anchor. As a form of cultural insights from the interview, I understood that their identity is linked to historical memory, and the distinction from Russian identify matters, and also that faith preserves culture. When they get together every Sunday, or when they get together every Wednesday for the couples meetings, that's when they connect. That's when they relive their culture once again. And I have had the biggest privilege of being part of that. Here are some counseling implications that we may find. As a future counselor, I must practice trauma-informed care and cultural humility. The MSJCC 1.1 requires self-awareness of biases. The MSJCC 4.2 emphasizes advocacy, and biblically informed social justice calls us to serve marginalized populations while respecting autonomy. Spiritual integration must always be client-led. Language barriers may also present multiple challenges when working with immigrants, refugees, and international students even. Professional counselors must be careful not to assume or interpret experiences and words based on their experiences and definitions. Rats 2016. As a final reflection, this immersion experience transformed my understanding of collective trauma, resilience, and faith integration. Advocacy begins with listening. Cultural identity preservation is essential for healing as well. This experience made me see the importance of being a culturally competent professional counselor who actively seek to be aware of their own values, perceptions, assumptions, and limitations. As in Leviticus 19:34 says, the foreigner residing among you must be treated as your native born. Love them as yourself, for you were foreigners in Egypt. I am the Lord your God. So this is my research paper with my immersion experience within the Ukrainian refugee community here in my city. Hope you enjoyed my presentation. God bless you, and God bless our refugees.